Welcome into an emergency 49ers report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior coming at you from the at-home setup right before I get on this flight to Indianapolis for the NFL Scouting Combine because we have a 49ers defensive coordinator search update. According to Matt Mayoko, NBC Sports Bay Area, really, this is the most information that we've gotten in the Niners' search to replace Steve Wilks since they let him go. The 49ers have completed interviews with former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley and 49ers defensive pass game specialist Nick Sorensen. Daniel Bullocks, the Niners defensive backs coach, is expected to interview for the vacant position later in the week. Much more on this coming up, including some other potential interviews, but first, this is why you subscribe to the channel. Our coverage in Indy all week is going to be spectacular, and here on the Niners Report, we give you entertaining, insightful, informative, thought-provoking Niners coverage, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as we close in on 131,000 subscribers. So the names that Mayoko listed there: Brandon Staley, Nick Sorensen, Daniel Bullocks. Then Mayoko adding some information here that the Niners are likely to interview at least two other coaches from outside the building later in the week, though Kyle Shanahan did not reveal which other outside candidates are being considered for the position. This is important to note because the wheels are turning for a lot of people. Is the Bill Belichick dream still alive? Could that mean Mike Vrabel? Could the Niners poach Gus Bradley away from the Indianapolis Colts as the Niners look to get back to their roots with that Seattle scheme that worked so well under Robert Saleh as well as DeMeco Ryans? I'm not shooting that down as of this moment. And the fact that this has been so silent, the search up until this point, is somewhat mysterious, and it leads you to believe, is Kyle Shanahan keeping things under wraps because he doesn't want the leak to get out? I think it's somewhat surprising that the Niners don't have a defensive coordinator going into the NFL Scouting Combine. This is an opportunity for John Lynch and the front office, maybe some Niners assistants who will be on hand in Indianapolis, to get up close and personal with some of these draft prospects, interview them, talk to them, coach them up. See them on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium in downtown Indianapolis going through these drills to see which players they covet, which players they like to be a part of this Niners defense. But NFL rules require clubs to interview at least two minority candidates for all coordinator positions. So you have to add that into the equation as well. And this search for the Niners defensive coordinator, it's in its second week after he informed Wilks after locker room cleanout day and the end of the season press conference on February 14th of his decision to end their partnership. And everything has really been kept under wraps up until this point. Now, Kyle Shanahan in that Mayoko piece did text him and say, we should have things wrapped up by the end of the week. And at that moment, it's going to be fascinating to see what decision the San Francisco 49ers make. As for these external interviews, again, they could fulfill the Rooney Rule, which is the two minority candidates for all coordinator positions. Daniel Bullocks would be one of the minority candidates. Or could these external interviews be the aforementioned big names of Bill Belichick, who I've said here on the show would be my number one option? Mike Vrabel or somebody else that we either discussed on this show or somebody that we haven't talked to. I'd lean for that not being the case. But until the announcement is made official, my Bill Belichick dream lives on. Let's go through some of these candidates here real quick. Brandon Staley. A lot of people are lukewarm about Brandon Staley. I get some of the outrage, right? His disaster as the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers was not good. He blew a 27-point lead against the Jaguars in the playoffs in 2022. His defense was up in flames while he was the head coach for 2 years, and he has a defensive specialty. But some coaches are meant to be coordinators. And the 1 year that Staley was actually a defensive coordinator in the NFL came with the Los Angeles Rams back in 2020, and the Rams defense was spectacular. Number one scoring defense, number one passing defense, number one in yards allowed, number three run defense. If I told you those numbers, but I didn't attach the name Brandon Staley to the interview list, a lot of you would probably be in on it. excited about it, about that type of direction for this Niners defense, because under Steve Wilks, the Niners went from the number one rushing defense in the NFL to 26th. EPA per play, number 1 to 12th. The secondary wasn't cohesive with the front end. And the Niners' sack percentage also plummeted. But under Brandon Staley, analytical thinker, very creative mind, has the trust of Shawn McVey, who him and Kyle Shanahan are looked at as two of the most intelligent coaches in the National Football League, he flourished. And there was a reason why he became the head coach of the Chargers. And in 2+ years, yeah, it wasn't good, and his defense did not succeed. But again, is he molded? Is he better suited to be a coordinator in this league? He's a Vic Fangio disciple. The fingerprints of Vic Fangio's defense are all across the NFL. And he gets creative with how to pressure the quarterback. Twists, stunts, gains. Imagine what he could do with Nick Bosa, with Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, whoever else is going to be opposite of Nick Bosa at the other defensive end spot. And the way that he thinks about the game kind of matches up with how Kyle Shanahan thinks about the game. And Vic Fangio really liked him. He was an assistant with the Bears and the Broncos, outside linebackers coach, and played quarterback at the college level at Dayton. So he does see the game through a offensive point of view as well. I do think that's valuable. Again, he's not my number one candidate, but I think it would be a solid hire. I do. And him and Kyle Shanahan are said to have a connection, have a relationship, and share the same agent. And it would make sense with the direction that the Niners want to go toward, with it being a Kyle Shanahan guy, because for the first time in his coaching career, he went outside of his circle for Steve Wilks. It didn't work out. Nick Sorensen. Could he take over for Steve Wilks? I'm lukewarm on this idea because I think Shanahan is limiting himself to a certain degree in the search and not hiring the best candidate. And my thought here is, could this be an overcorrection in trying to hire an internal person on the staff after the external hiring of Wilks did not work out? Now, to Shanahan's credit, the internal hirings of Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans, they both worked out very, very well. And a reason why Sorensen could be the candidate, he's the only assistant on this defensive staff with coordinator and play calling experience, because he used to be the Jaguars special teams coordinator under Urban Meyer in 2021. His coaching path, after he spent a good while in the National Football League, 2013 to 2015, Seahawks assistant special teams coach. 2016, Seahawks assistant defensive backs coach. 2017 to 2020, Seahawks secondary coach. And that Seahawk connection, very important, because what did I talk about a little while ago? The Niners are trying to get back to their roots of this Seattle cover 3 scheme that's worked so well under Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, which they got away from a little bit with Steve Wilks, and Steve Wilks was asked to come in and kind of run the existing system and scheme, but then he, of course, naturally, because it's all he knows, added some of his own elements to it. It just didn't work out. So the Seattle connection there is of note. That's why Gus Bradley has been mentioned. Another guy who's been mentioned is D'Anton Lynn, who used to be the UCLA defensive coordinator. Now he's the USC defensive coordinator. My guy, Guy Haberman, has thrown out that name a little bit. And then after being the Jaguars special teams coordinator in 2021 for Sorensen, Niners defensive assistant in 2022, Niners defensive pass game specialist / coordinator, secondary coach for the Niners in 2023. Secondary was good. Look at the play of Diamador Lenore. Look at the play of Mooney Ward, second team All-Pro. Talanoa Hufanga the last 2 years before he got hurt, obviously. Jair Brown steps in, plays well as a rookie. Deshaun Gibson was really good, didn't miss a beat once Jimmy Ward went out. In fact, he played so well, they had to move Jimmy Ward, to the slot. Daniel Bullocks, Niners defensive backs coach. Again, Mooney Ward, Ambry Thomas, Diamador Lenore. These defensive backs played well for San Francisco this year. And at the Super Bowl, a lot of the players were crediting Daniel Bullocks with just the increased play in the secondary. They said, this guy's an up-and-comer. He's a rising star in the business, future defensive coordinator. My worry with that is a little bit inexperienced. 40 years old, does have a nice little playing career. Here's the second-round pick. Was with the Detroit Lions 2006 to 2009. Has a long defensive backs history. Got started as a coach, 2012 to 2014, Northern Iowa DBs coach, Eastern Michigan 2015, Jaguars in 2016, assistant defensive backs coach, Niners 2017-2018, assistant defensive backs coach, and then since 2019 was San Francisco safeties coach, defensive backs coach. So those are the names being thrown out there right now. The big mystery, of course, that is looming, that's hovering. Who are the external candidates that Kyle Shanahan could interview? Everything has been kept silent up to this point, to the Niners' credit. We'll certainly see. Whatever happens, we're going to cover it here on the show. And whatever I hear from Indianapolis, we're going to give you the latest right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Don't forget to subscribe. Had to rush through that video. Appreciate everybody for watching. If you made it to the end, give me a real one. It's time for me to get to this flight to Indianapolis for the Combine. Peace.